Today I want to show you how to create a thumbnail for your videos, and this is roughly what it'll look like. This is the one for this video. So what we're going to do is we're going to be using Gimp 2.10. You want to just go ahead and start your Gimp program and go to File, New. Make sure that your width is set to 1280, your height to 720. Here it doesn't matter if you use a background color or not. I make it a habit to fill my background with transparency for ping images. Couple of reasons: takes up less space. Too, you can have your transparencies show through if you're creating an image for like a web page or something. Okay, so go ahead and click OK. Now we've got up at the top it says 1280 by 720. So the first thing we want to do is kind of throw in a background image. As you can see in this one here, I just used an image I had previously created. It really doesn't matter what you use, but the best way is to go ahead and just drag and drop a picture in there, and that'll create a new layer. Obviously this one we're going to want to scale. I'm going to use the scale tool and just click in the image. Now you can drag it, or you can just make sure this is linked up here, and we need to have at least 1280 as our width. And then if you click in the next one or hit tab, you'll see that it's 936, which is, you know, a little wider, a little larger than our image. Let's go ahead and drag it, hit scale. And as you can see here, our borders are fitting pretty nice. Next thing I'm going to do is hit the M key, or just press the move tool, click in the image, and use my down arrow on my keyboard. That just keeps our alignment pretty nice. Drag it down to about right here. And that looks good, I think. So I'll just go ahead and leave it there. Right click on that layer, layer to image size. Next thing we want to do is kind of give it a nice effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down below our background layer, and I'm actually going to right click and create a new layer. You can also just click the button there. Doesn't matter what you call it, width and height should automatically fit. So I'm going to hit OK, drag that down behind this layer, and all I'm going to do is make it darker, but you'll see in a second here. So first thing, we're going to take this layer that we just added, go up to our opacity, and just drag that way down, like, I don't know, 20 or so, whatever, so it's barely visible. After that, click on the add-on layer, the layer that you just added, and go ahead and select a nice, like a dark color, like a gray or a purple or blue, black, doesn't matter. Click on your bucket fill tool over here. You can also use Shift B, and then make sure you have that new layer selected that you created, and just fill that in. That way it kind of gives it a nice kind of set back background. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and blur this image. So we're going to use our filters up here, and I'm just going to go to blur. I'm just going to do a nice Gaussian blur. It doesn't matter if you choose motion blur, Gaussian blur, either way. But we'll just go with Gaussian blur. I'm going to set this to about, as you can see, I have the preview set, a little over 5. And if you want to do a split view, this is how much you can see it's blurring by. But I'm just going to go ahead and do about that. Click OK. Alright, and make sure that your opacity is about where you want it. You know, I'm going to leave it right around maybe 15, and then I'll just go ahead and merge that down with the bottom layer there. So now go ahead and click on your original background layer, the one that opened and created this image. And if you want to add a cutout of yourself, I'll add a clip in here to show you the process of creating a cutout. I have made videos before on it. The best cutouts always have feathered edges, which you'll see in a moment here, but should be adding this clip in of the image that I cut out. So the next thing you want to do is take your cutout image. Here I've already got right here. Just going to drag that and drop it right in. Boom! Wow, that's a little big, isn't it? Let's go ahead and scale that as well. We're just going to take it and kind of eyeball it. Now you can move it using this center grid square here. I'm just going to move it to about like this size, something like that. It doesn't matter if it bleeds off the bottom. That's perfectly fine. I'd probably just put it about like that. Hit scale, and I'm going to make sure that's layer to image size. It just helps with uniformity and to kind of see a result as you work. Now you notice we added that above our empty background layer. There's a reason for that, and you're about to see why. First thing we want to do here is go ahead and add a like a highlight, but before that, let's clean this up. Let's kind of saturate it a little bit. If you notice the difference here, it's very slight, but I'm going to go up to colors, probably the hue, saturation. Could have just used saturation, and we're just going to bring this up a bit so it kind of brightens up. Boom. Get it to where you like it, hit OK, and now, as you can see, it kind of pops out a little bit. Next thing we're going to do is right click on that layer and go down to alpha to selection. Go ahead and click that and it'll highlight your image. Now click on your background layer, the one below this layer here. We're going to go up and select, grow. We're going to grow this by about 2 pixels. And let's go ahead and feather it by about 6, which I've already got selected here. Again, that's select feather. And now let's make a nice gradient. We'll do like a white and blue. So here I've got FFFFFF. That's the HTML notation for white. And the other color I chose is like a light kind of baby blue. 23 alpha 9 delta 9. And what I'm going to do is just kind of add a gradient to this. Now what I'm going to do is zoom out. That's control and mouse wheel down where you've got your zoom down here. I'm just going to zoom out about like this far. Probably start about the top of the head and just drag that, and you can kind of see it fill in as you go. I'm going to drag it off the corner of the page to about like right here. Press enter to go ahead and make that happen. We can zoom back in or just press number 1 to bring it up full size. Now control shift A or select none, and you'll see that it kind of gives us a little bit of a glow outline there. Now the next thing we want to do is probably go ahead and add a little bit of a border to the image. So with this same background layer selected, go up here to select all, and then go to select border. This is just one way to do it. We'll give it a border of about 6 pixels, that's fine. And then again, we're going to feather this border so it just kind of bleeds into the page. 6 pixels is fine. And what feathering does is it doesn't fill it solid to the border. It kind of allows some transparency in, which you'll see here. Again, we're going to do the same process. Zoom out, start about the top of the hat here, and go just off the page so it looks about uniform. Keeping the same angle here through the corner of the page. Just hit enter, and then you can zoom back in and select none. I think that looks okay. That's basically just another element to let our thumbnail stand out. And as you can see, it's pretty well uniform with the outline that we did behind here. So one more thing we need to do, well, there's a couple of things, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding text. So I'm just going to leave this layer selected, click on my text icon over here, and right now I've got this Sakal Majala bold. It doesn't matter what text you choose, you want to make sure that it's legible, whatever it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and click anywhere on the page, and I'm going to type create your own thumbnail. I can't read what it's saying, but what I'm going to do is just take this size right here, and I'm going to use my mouse wheel, scroll down to shrink the size. Yeah, I spelled thumbnail way wrong. So I'm going to make this about 80 pixels, I guess, something that looks about decent. And I'm going to make sure I spell this right. Now I'm going to take my move tool. Now obviously there are text effects that we can add and everything else. But what I'm going to do, let me go back up here. Let me take out thumbnail. I'm going to make that big and below it. And as you can see, I'm using white because it contrasts real well with the background. So let's just go ahead and move this wherever we want it. I'm just going to put it like right about here. And then we're going to click on our text icon again, and to create a new text layer, as you can see, this created a layer over here. And go ahead and just click below it, and I'm going to just type thumbnail. I'm holding down the shift key, but you can hit caps. I want to make it roughly the same size as create your own, so I'm just going to scroll up in my size here. Heck, we can even go bigger since that's the main theme. I'm going to do about probably 120. Now there are other text effects we could do, like the line spacing over here, the indentation of the first line, and then the letter spacing. So we can spread out our letters or smash them together if we want to. Generally, you know, it depends on what font you use. You'll want to play with that a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and take my move tool again. I'm just gonna drop this right kind of below there with a decent amount of space. Well, I might drop it a little further. We don't want to go too high, too low. We kind of want to make this central to our image here. Move this around a little bit again too. And yeah, that looks good. Okay, I'm gonna do one more text, and I'm just gonna drop it in right here. I'm just gonna say in Gimp. I believe this is what we had written in there. You can do all caps for Gimp if you want, which stands for New Image Manipulation Program, which is essentially a free version of Adobe Photoshop or a different type of image editor. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the size of that one down to probably about 80 again, about the same as before. Maybe move that to the end of this, and then take our create your own, move that over here. There's a lot of different effects we can do. We can add borders, backgrounds. Probably don't want that too close. Now I'm going to go to thumbnail here, and I'm going to actually change the color of that just by clicking the text tool, double clicking in the square, hitting Control A in there. Selecting a color here, probably make it another nice baby bluish, something like that. Doesn't really matter what you choose so long as it kind of fits your theme and stands out. I might even increase the size a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, let's increase the size just a little bit, like 130. I'm going to go back up here to our create your own. Now, right now I'm kind of nitpicking and fussing with the layout just to kind of make it look good. What I'm going to do is change this font. This is like a bold version of it. I'm going to go up here and choose a non-bold version. Same for Gimp. Just use a non-bold version. I'm just using my mouse wheel to scroll up on the font selector over there. You can also use your drop down or start typing. So let me move this a little bit again. It's kind of close. I'm just kind of put it at the end. And I'm going to click on my furthest, my bottommost layer here. And I think that looks okay, but it's kind of missing something. So here's a neat little trick. I'm going to click on the background layer again, and I'm going to go up here and select my path tool, which is just the B key as a shortcut. And I'm going to select up in the corner, maybe come down to about, I don't know, roughly halfway. In the bottom left, you can see how many pixels over you are. 640 would be halfway. I'm going to go about 637, something like that. And then come just off the page here. And if I hold Control and click, that matches it together. Now, holding Control, I can move these little nodes, right? These don't matter for the this side. This is the one we wanted to find. So I'm just holding down Control and dragging this down. I'm going to drag it maybe halfway down the page or so, right about here. Now I'm going to click in this node, and then I'm going to hold down Control and do the same thing. I'm going to come over about maybe halfway, something like that. And then I'm just going to press Enter. And that's going to give me these this selected ant crawling area. I'm going to also feather that, I think. It doesn't really matter whether you do or not, or how much. The more you feather it, the more it'll kind of bleed into the page. So let's just crank that up to like 25. Hit OK. And again, I'm going to use my blend tool. I'm going to zoom out on the page, starting above the hat, just like we did before. Hold it down, and you can see it fill in as we go here. I think it was right about like here. Something like that looks pretty good. I'm just going to hit Enter. Again, pressing 1 to zoom it in, Control Shift A to get rid of my selection. And there you can see we got, obviously this one has more feathering than the other one I made. But there you have it. That's a very simple way to create your own thumbnail for a video. Again, the cutting out of your image takes the longest. You don't even have to cut anything out if you don't want to, but it definitely does kind of make it stand out. Now there are other things that we can do to make this text stand out. One thing we can do is almost make it look like a thumbnail itself. So with our background layer selected, I'm just going to go ahead and create a box around it. And then I'm going to go up here and say select rounded rectangle. And here we can create or like I'm gonna do about a 50% round on the corners, and then just hit OK. So that kind of gives us like a little box here, right? So now that we have that selected, I'm going to maybe fill that in with like a dark gray or something right here. Hit OK, and I'm gonna use just my bucket tool here, Shift B, and I'm just gonna click in there. Yeah, we didn't need to feather that or anything. It does kind of help make it stand out. One thing that we can do is instead of just, I'm gonna hit Control Z or Edit Undo. We can change the opacity of our fill, and I'm gonna drop that down to about 20%, 22%, and then try it again. See how it kind of makes it a little darker. You could play with that. I'm gonna undo it and do it again. Maybe do about 50%. Let's do a little bit more. Maybe 65. Okay, see, I think that looks good. You know, another thing that we can do is add a border to that too, maybe like a 2-pixel border, and then go ahead and drop in like maybe our, I'm gonna hit this key here to switch our foreground background colors, and maybe I'm just gonna drop in this this kind of bluish color, and then Control Shift A to select none, zoom out, see what it looks like. I mean, that's okay. That's one way to do it. There are a whole lot of different options you can use to kind of do something like this. But if you don't like it, just hit Control Z as many times as you need to get rid of it. And there we go. That's essentially how you create a thumbnail in Gimp. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out all my videos. I'm on LBRY, I'm on BitTube, and obviously YouTube.